Intelligence is knowing that someone is wrong. Wisdom is holding your tongue and not correcting them. So before I go any further, let me define what I mean by intelligence. This particular statement refers to intelligence being intellectual, well-read. Someone who reads a lot of books about history, science, geopolitical theories, things of that nature. So I've always been well-read. I've always enjoyed reading. But as I've gotten older and experienced more, I've noticed I've gained more wisdom. I started thinking about this today. I saw a post on social media by this particular person, and the post they made was wrong, completely and utterly wrong, and very hateful. Now, back in the day, I would have responded and told them they were wrong in hopes that I could transform their opinion by using facts. But now, since I've experienced more and I've gained more wisdom, I understand that people's opinions are attached to their egos. So if I would have corrected, or even if I would have provided irrefutable facts, it would have been like me metaphorically taking a sledgehammer and smashing her ego. And I would have had to deal with the consequences of that. Whether she would choose to respond angrily, whether she would sarcastically agree, or she would ignore me. But inside, I would have smashed her ego. Now, you might say facts over feelings, and that's fair. I understand. Social justice warriors, feminists, and people like that, their opinions are completely based on emotion. I get that. But think of it from a selfish perspective, an individualistic perspective. The more time you spend arguing with someone online who is not going to change their opinion, the less time you spend doing something productive for yourself. And I just noticed I did this subconsciously. I didn't consciously think about this. I was simply scrolling through social media. I saw the post and I just thought, how ignorant. And I got out of it and I went to the gym. And then I worked on my car and looked at some investments and some passive income. So I did it subconsciously, and I did not really think about it consciously until I started to sit down and relax a little bit. So I've developed more wisdom as I've gotten older. I'm now reaching my mid-20s, and I'm getting a lot more wise. In my early 20s, I would have wasted a lot of time arguing. And then I started to think on a deeper level. What is the difference between intelligence and wisdom? Now, intelligence can be defined in many different ways. Our society likes to put intelligence in a box and just say academic scholars, college professors, politicians. They like to say people like that are the only form of intelligence there is. But there's many different forms and ways that people are intelligent. And that is a form. Don't misunderstand me. But the particular statement that I made, I'm referring to intelligence as book smart and wisdom as experiencing things in life and applying what you've learned in life. I know many people who are very intellectual, but they're not very wise, and vice versa. I think the best example I can give of someone I know who was very wise, but not super book smart, was my grandmother. A lot of the World War II generation did not have time to sit around and read books and go to the library because a lot of them were fighting the Germans. They had to leave school in the 6th grade or before in order to go help their parents run the farm. They had to run the household. So they didn't really have time to sit around and think about how the world works, think about science, philosophy, all of that. A lot of them did not have time unless they were privileged and they grew up in an elite family. But the average country family where I'm from in the South, the average family had to focus working on the farm. And as you gain experiences in life, you become more wise. You learn situations through experience, and you learn how to react to those situations. Just like, I know now that you can't change people's opinions with facts. All you're going to do is get into an argument and piss that person off. So my grandmother learned how to make bread, learned how to sew, learned how to kill animals and cook them. She learned how to make homemade remedies, and her remedies actually worked. She had her own remedies she created when she was a kid. Because she was so poor, she wasn't able to go to the hospital. So she created homemade remedies. She knew how to take care of people when they were sick. So my grandma did not have time to read, Cicero or Aristotle or books about economics or philosophy. But that doesn't mean that she's not a smart person. She was very full of wisdom because of the experiences that she had. And on the other hand, I have a friend who's very, very intellectual. But he doesn't have a lot of wisdom because he hasn't had a lot of experiences. He comes from a culture of strict education. His dad is a doctor. So he pushes all of his kids to be great academically. They're very sheltered from the world. They pretty much go to school, they go to their instrument lessons, and then they come home and they study. So I would say the best example I can give is he's more of a wine and caviar type of person. And I'm more of a beer and pretzels type of person. My entertainment is, I have the best of both worlds. I'm intellectual enough to appreciate going to the orchestra and hearing a classical piece of music, but I'm also normal enough to enjoy getting beer and going to the baseball game, But he's sort of more of someone who likes going to the orchestra. He's not really someone who's really involved with the common man. His dad sort of lives as an elitist, and that's his business. Freedom of association, that's fine. That's his prerogative. But what I've noticed is when me and him get out in the real world, he doesn't really know too much. Because he's always been in his room studying, and he hasn't really done a lot. This struck me when I was at his house one time, and I was making toast in the morning for breakfast. He said, "You might want to get that toast out before it burns." And I said, "I've been sitting here the whole time and it hasn't popped out yet." And he's like, "Well, if it pops out while it's burning, it might burn the house down." And I was thinking, who the hell doesn't know that toast pops up when it's done, It's kind of like asking a celebrity what a gallon of gas cost or how much, a gallon of milk costs. They're not going to know. Yet they want to lecture us about how to live and who to vote for. That's neither here nor there. That's another topic for another video. And another experience I had with him was when we were walking downtown. There were combs that were blocking off this construction site. And he's like, "I didn't know there was protest here," because at his college, there were these social justice warriors who would protest and they would block up the highways. And I kind of laughed and I said, "No, that's a construction site, So it's just that he was better read than my grandmother, but my grandmother experienced more. Both, in my opinion, are very intelligent individuals. I know another man who works with my dad. He's very intelligent. He might not be well read. He might not know how to spell very well, but he knows how to fix cars. He taught himself all this. He knows how to fix sinks. He knows how to fix refrigerators. He knows how to build houses. He knows how to weld, all this stuff. He's never been to technical school. He has just taught himself how to do all this, and he makes income on the side. So this guy is very, very, very intelligent. And I remember we're speaking on my grandmother, we're helping her move. And we tried like hell to put all of her belongings in the back of a van. But as soon as he got there, he was able to organize it because of his spatial intelligence. So if he took a standard IQ test, he probably would be considered below average. But when he gets out into the real world, he's able to do things that an individual like myself needs training to do. You know, I know how to weld a bit and I know how to build some things, but not to the capacity as him. And it's because I've had training, you know. I didn't teach myself how to do this stuff. So society needs to change its definition. But that is the difference between wisdom and intelligence. They are two very different things. Even though if you hear someone say you're very wise, they think you're saying that person's intelligent. And if you're saying that person is very intelligent, you think they're very wise. But an individual can be extremely intelligent and extremely unwise. Extremely wise and extremely unintelligent.